We have several more NHL signings today in Free Agent Frenzy. In today's video, we're looking at players like Wayne Simmonds, Kyle Turris, Bobby Ryan, and a whole lot more. We'll discuss all that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a lot more signings to discuss here. It's been a very busy day with Free Agent Frenzy well underway, several contracts signed, and let's dive in here. There's some of these that seem like bargain contracts, but I really like them for a few of these teams. Like, for example, Bobby Ryan signs a one-year deal with Detroit, 1 year, $1 million. So obviously, Detroit's a rebuilding team, could use a leader like him, a veteran guy who can come in. I know he was quite a mentor and a guy well looked up to in the locker room by many of the younger players in Ottawa, so it'll be a good opportunity for him to go to Detroit. He should be able to get a bigger role given their kind of lack of depth in the roster. Can play higher in the forward group, get more opportunity, hopefully find his scoring touch, get back to his old offensive ways, and then hopefully get himself a longer, better contract from there. So obviously Ryan to Detroit kind of makes sense to me. I wondered if a contending team or something closer to where he's from, like New Jersey or Philly or something, might express interest, and maybe they have, but for that kind of deal, I would think that that's probably one of the better options for him that was out there. Now, we also seen that Kyle Turris, another former teammate of Bobby's in Ottawa, has signed a contract with the Edmonton Oilers. Of course, Turris was just bought out by the Nashville Predators, so he's going to have extra income coming from that contract buyout, but he signs a 2-year deal with Edmonton at $1.65. We knew that the Oilers wanted to address that number 3 center spot, and I think this is a brilliant deal for Edmonton. Kyle Turris, to me, is still an excellent player, just did not work in Nashville, but to have an opportunity to play in Edmonton with all those offensive players, he should thrive in that environment. I have a lot of confidence in him to bounce back and to do really well in Edmonton. They could put him on the power play as well. He's a capable guy in that sense. He's got a really good shot. He can certainly be more than capable to be the number 3 center. And even at times, if the coach wants to load up and put, like Draisaitl and McDavid together, he can jump up and be a second-line center too. I think he's more than capable. When he played in Ottawa, he was a really strong player. Things just did not work out in Nashville. And I would be surprised if things don't work out in Edmonton, because I think there's a high potential for this to be a brilliant move here by Ken Holland. Stanley Cup champion Tampa Lightning have re-signed a few of their players, including the big rig Pat Maroon and Luke Schenn. Both get signed to new contracts. Maroon this time gets a 2-year deal at $900K per season, so $1.8 million total value. So obviously that's an extra year for Maroon, who's been working off 1-year contracts for a while, so that's good for him. And Schenn comes back at a 1-year deal at $800,000. So they both proved to be very, solid depth pieces for the Lightning and played a big role in their win. So that's good for them, good for the team. We also saw Carter Verhaeghe leave the Lightning. He signed with the Florida Panthers, a 1-year, $1 million deal in free agency as well. So he departs. So there could be more changes coming as well for the Lightning. They also placed Tyler Johnson on waivers. Now, that very well could be that. Obviously, we know that he had a full no-move clause. And even though he had that, he had given about 5 or 6 teams initially to the Lightning to work with on a trade. And I believe there was reports that he had expanded that a little bit up to 7 or 8 teams. But obviously, this is a way for them to work around the possibility of a team who's not on his list to acquire him. Like, for example, as we know, we saw this before in the Patrick Hornqvist situation too. Like, he accepted the trade to Florida and waived his no trade because he knew Pittsburgh didn't want him, and that was likely what was coming next. So it's a way for teams to work around that loophole on the no-move clause. So Tyler Johnson could end up being claimed by a team who wanted to trade for him but was on his no-trade list. So that's quite a possibility that could happen. We won't know where he lands, if anywhere, until tomorrow. He could end up clearing and have to stay with Tampa as well. But we'll see. I mean, if a team couldn't trade for him, maybe they'll take him off waivers where they don't have to give up any assets. So some interesting developments there for the Stanley Cup champions. Of course, the Wayne train, Wayne Simmonds, signs a deal with the hometown Toronto Maple Leafs, a 1-year deal at $1.5 million. I said that he's already reached out to many teammates. It seems like it's a no-brainer for him. He said he's born and raised in the Toronto area, grew up in Scarborough. So, it was an easy decision for him. So that's certainly, another bottom 6 forward with a lot of experience who can play physical, play net front. Like I said, he's not quite the same player he was more in his prime years, but he's still a pretty solid player. Explains why they probably didn't qualify a player like Freddie Gauthier and Jeremy Bracco. Obviously, they will depart via free agency. So Simmonds and Spezza obviously should have decent roles with Sheldon Keefe. So we'll see. But another veteran guy there. The Leafs are still looking to address their blue line, which is the much bigger question of all this, which we're still waiting for some activity and whatnot. I mean, there is word as well they might be trying to acquire Mackenzie Weegar from Florida. So we will see how that goes. But right now, the main thing the Leafs have done is they've signed Wayne Simmonds. Just something that was rumored that we had talked about here just a few days ago as well. Radko Gudas has signed with the Florida Panthers as a free agent. He gets a 3-year deal of $2.5 million per season. So obviously Florida's traded out a fair bit of defensemen lately. They traded some ones that were kind of the same kind of defenseman as him, somebody who's big and physical. So they bring him in as a replacement at $2.5 million. Obviously, that's a much better contract, for example, than the one they had with Mike Matheson. So more manageable. He's a little older, get more experience, but Gudas should be a pretty good fit there for the Florida Panthers. And the Winnipeg Jets have re-signed Nathan Beaulieu as well, so they get to keep him on their blue line. I thought he was a pretty decent fit after arriving there with the Winnipeg Jets, so that should work out as well. Beaulieu gets a 2-year deal at $1.25 million per season, so it's a pretty low cost for somebody who can play like third pair type of minutes. And the Vancouver Canucks have re-signed Tyler Mott as well. He gets a 2-year deal at $1.25 million per season. Obviously, Mott had a bit of a coming out party, really showed in the return to play through these playoffs that he was a really important piece for Vancouver and had some excellent results and certainly garnered some pretty solid reviews. So it's no big shock that he gets a new contract with the Canucks, but it's a pretty solid deal for him, a 2-year deal. Should become a pretty good part of their bottom six here for the next few years and really cement himself in their lineup. So he had a great playoff. Nice to see him get rewarded. So those are all your signings as of right now, but I'm sure there's probably many more that are being completed here as I record this video. So we'll be back a little bit later with additional videos recapping more signings as the news happens. So stay tuned to Top Shelf Hockey. We'll keep you all up to date with all the breaking news from around the NHL. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.